Hello and welcome to the G-Log for the 30th of November 2014. I am Gary Reaver. This time I'm still pretty much just talking about PokéSins. First of all, thank you very much for all the amazing feedback. There was so much more than I expected. It was absolutely incredible. But before I go on about that, the reason I haven't done a PokéSins, because I was planning to do one on Monday, is for the last 2 weeks I have just been swamped, ridiculously busy. And as you know, it takes a long time to edit a PokéSins, and I've just not had the time to just sit down and do it. I've been way too busy to do a PokéSins. And assuming people don't hate the ideas I present now, I may as well just do them in the new style. It wasn't ideal, but thank you for not pestering me about it. Speaking of which, follow me on Twitter. I use my Twitter to make announcements that are too small or too midweek to go in a G-Log. Like, a few days ago I announced that, I probably wouldn't be getting a PokéSins out in time. So I recommend that you follow me on there. Gary Reaver, linked in the description. The changes. So I said last week that I'd probably do another one this week depending on feedback, and there's been so much more feedback than I expected. It's incredible. So I have my updated changes. And instead of opening this up to, do you have any improvements on this? Instead, I'm just going to say, if you have any drastic improvements on this. So if there's anything in this idea that you hate, please let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead with this plan. So I'll give you a few days to gauge response to this, and then assuming it's not massively negative, I'll just go ahead and do it. First things first, the title, it won't be the scoring of. I agree that's generic, it's just the best thing I could come up with at the time. So the title is PokéSins : episode name. For example, PokéSins, Island of the Giant Pokemon. I'm going to save my favourite change for last, but the ending. People did not like the idea of it being too reviewy. They want it to stay as a comedy thing, and I'm perfectly okay with that. The only reason I included the review thing was people had previously asked me to make it more reviewy. Thought I'd give you the option. And that was the point of the G-Log, to gauge response, and the response doesn't want it to be reviewy. Instead, somebody suggested I total up the score and then compare it to the score of other episodes around it, in a sort of scoreboard thing. This raised the issue that because of the difference in scoring system, the next episode is going to be alone in the scoreboard. So then somebody else suggested that I rescore, or it could have been the same person, I'm sorry, there have been a lot of comments, that I'd rescore them and rescore the old ones to get their new scores in the new compound system and then put them in that scoreboard. And I like that idea. I'm sorry, I can't remember if these ideas were mine or if they were suggested. I'm just going to say them and credit where it's due. I'll do it as a scoreboard and show the 5 scoring above and the 5 scoring below the current episode. So, my favourite change, the scoring system. So I was originally going to have pluses and minuses, where the pluses were negative points and the minuses were positive points. Sort of continuing what I currently have, where the higher the sin count, the worse the episode is. I was sort of trying to follow that, but somebody else suggested that I invert that and go with a more classic scoring system to add another layer of parody to it by having the final scores almost always negative. And I love it. That will fit into the scoring system quite well, the scoreboard thing I mentioned. But the biggest change, not the biggest change, but the change that I most love, instead of pluses and minuses, plusles and minons. And I know they're 2 generations ahead of where the series currently is, but as I've said before, this is, I'm in this for the long haul, and it fits. How could I not have plusles and minons when I'm trying to count pluses and minuses of Pokemon? It just makes sense. So thank you, whoever suggested that. You are a genius. So comment below so people can congratulate you. So, an overview of how it'll go. PokéSins episode name, and then throughout the episode I'll have 2 running scores, the plusle and the minon. And for each negative point, so each what is currently called sin, I will add 1 to the minon count. And for each positive point, which are currently taking off sins, I'll add to the plusle count. And there'll be 2 running counts throughout the episode, and then at the end, they'll total up and add to the scoreboard. One thing that I forgot to mention or rather forgot to ask your thoughts on, was the subtitles. Because subtitles aren't something I'd ever thought to do if it was my own. It was part of the style. And I'm not sure that they fit into my new thing because, well, part of the issue is, of course, that the early Pokemon episodes are square. Because Square, you know, they just didn't have the wider screens that we have now. So when I make the picture smaller to accommodate for the subtitles, it makes it a box in the center of the screen, and I don't like that. So I'd rather it just be top to bottom with the scoring in the black bars on the sides. In later episodes, if they do fix that, I assume they do in later ones, at least in modern ones. Cross that bridge when I come to it. So this is the only thing where I'm sort of openly asking opinion, and I'll just take because it's a very yes or no thing, I'll go with a consensus, I guess. Should I have subtitles? And that about covers all of the new changes. Thank you again to everybody who commented, giving suggestions, feedback, or even just your thoughts on the matter. I really appreciate it. Again, I'm not looking for little changes here. I'm looking for big, shattering changes. Thank you for watching, and thank you for continuing to watch PokéSins through this awkward, weird time. Catch you later!